we hear in our first reading the story of the binding of Isaac. It is a story of faith in God's providence. Hence, Abraham building an altar and naming the site Yahweh Yireh, which means on the mountain the Lord will provide. Provide actually means the Lord will see. He will see to it. Abraham's faith was such that he believed God when God said that he and Sarah would have a child, though they were advanced in age. But Abraham's faith in God's providence also believed that if God was asking him to offer Isaac up in sacrifice, that God would somehow raise him back from the dead because of God's promise that he would have descendants through Isaac and that they would be as numerous as the sand on the seashore or the stars in the sky. But we also want to look at the faith of Isaac. According to the Old Testament's understanding, Isaac was not a little boy. He was 13 years old, a young, strapping lad. He was the one who was carrying the wood. Abraham was well into his 90s by that age, and so it would have been easy for Isaac to resist his father. But Isaac too had faith in God's providence. Faith in God's providence can keep us focused on what God gives us as a task. It can help us to remember that whatever God plants in our hearts as a project, God is going to see to fulfillment. And the saint that we celebrate today, Saint Junípero Serra, is a perfect example of that. Now, he was born on 24th of November 1713 on the island of Baleari Mayor and was given the name Peter. He entered the order of Friars Minor at Palma, Mallorca in 1730 and took the name Junípero, and after completing his studies was ordained to the priesthood in 1736. In April of 1749, he began his missionary work and went to Mexico, where he preached the gospel to the native peoples and founded missions. He entered Alta California, in contrast to Baja California, on 1 July 1767, where he proceeded to found 9 missions along the Alta California coast from what's today San Diego de Alcalá, or the town of San Diego, to San Francisco. He died in Monterrey on 28 August 1784 and is buried in the mission church of St. Charles Borromeo, which he founded. So we see the legacy of Saint Junípero Serra was one of bringing the gospel to the people. And like the friars at the time, though he was preaching Christianity, he also wanted to make sure that the indigenous peoples were properly given their due rights, as opposed to some of the harsh treatment that supposed Spanish Christians were giving to them at the time. And so we see someone who is steadfast in proceeding in the mission or the project that God has given to him. Saint Junípero Serra is well known for having had a slogan that he would often quote, and it was "Siempre adelante, nunca atrás," which means always going forward, never going backward. And so we ask the Lord for that kind of stick-to-itness and faith, the faith that Abraham had, that if God asks the impossible, he's going to provide the impossible. And that we may always progress, like Saint Junípero Serra, to always go forward in the life project that God has given to us, And if we should make a couple of steps backwards, that God will help us to take more steps forward. Amen.